I weighed 40 pounds more than I do today. I did not exercise. I had a couple of drinks every evening, to wind down, or so I thought.
In today's world where modern conveniences surround us, why does it seem like we're sicker and unhealthier than ever before?
Modern medicine is very good at, the emergency medicine, but we're not very good at the lifestyle diseases.
How does our lifestyle impact our health?
We are metabolically very unhealthy, particularly in the US, but there's an easy way to avoid getting those diseases, and it's free, and that is about.
Dr. Torkil Færø, an expert in preventative healthcare and author of the best-selling book, The Pulse Cure, has spent over 25 years diagnosing the root cause of modern ailments. But what he discovered could change how we view health forever.
So that if we do these things right, we'll live an extra 24 years. And of course, the sad thing as a doctor is to know that you didn't need to have them. With a better lifestyle, you could have avoided contracting these diseases if you made sure that. The good thing is that there is money to be made on preventing you from getting sick.
Is there hope for this generation coming up in regards to health, or have we completely lost them? Dr. Torkil Færø, where does your story begin? And when I say that, I'm referring to what has inspired your work in HRV, stress, and preventative health.
I became a doctor to live a life of freedom, to live a life where I could work as a freelancer, to work part-time and then go on traveling in the world. And that was what I was doing for maybe 15 years. And then we were going to sail for 4 years around the world. And just 1 year into that journey, I got the news that my father was critically ill. He had cancer and had only 3 months left to live. And then, of course, we were about to cross the Panama Canal. We just had to pack up the boat, leave it there, and fly home. And we kind of watched him as he deteriorated, for the next 3 months and died. And at the age of 73, and then up until then, I'd just been focused on living the adventurous life, and then I understood that, okay, to live a long adventurous life, I need good health. I need to live longer than that, And I started looking at myself, and I started to look more and more like the patients. I weighed 40 pounds more than I do today. I did not exercise. I had a couple of drinks every evening, to wind down, or so I thought. I did not care about what I was eating. I was sleeping, working a lot of night shifts, didn't care so much about my sleep. I didn't care so much about my lifestyle in general. As a doctor, I knew that if I lived the right lifestyle, there was something to gain, but I would think it was just a matter of 2 or 3 years. Of extra lifetime. And why bother? Because to do the right things, that would take you 2 or 3 years, so it was not much of a gain. So, but I started reorienting myself and learning about preventative healthcare and learning what can I do to live longer and healthier. And then I understood there was so much new knowledge since I studied medicine, in the last millennium. I started learning about it. I started changing my lifestyle. I started eating better, sleeping better, exercising, losing weight, cutting alcohol, and some other stuff that was not really helping me. During this then lifestyle change, I also became an author, writing books, on therapeutic photography in the camera cure. And then also about how to use wearables to improve our health, to track our heart rate variability, and our health, and that has been like a big game changer for me. And this last book, The Pulse Cure, that is about the wearables and the lifestyle changes, has been just a huge success in Norway. It has been on the best-selling list for a year and a half, translated into 8 languages, and it's just been the last year and a half has been like being inside a tornado of podcasts, of interviews, of TV, and everything that follows as a success, you know. So I've been used to being a normal doctor, right? A general practitioner, emergency medicine also. And I've been used to just having one patient at a time, you know, trying to guide them along. And suddenly I find myself, you know, on national TV, on everything. So that has also been a big challenge for me, you know, to suddenly adapt to this new life that I've had, you know, for the last year and a half. So.
You mentioned that you've been a doctor, you trained in modern medicine. And when we look at modern medicine today, with the research and the advancements we made, it's better than we've ever had in human history. Yet we seem sicker than we ever have before. Why is that?
We have, on many ways, we have a very good system for medicine for treating patients. But it's not really optimal. It's often not really curing the disease. It's often masking symptoms, you know, lowering symptoms. And then I'm talking particularly about, you know, like metabolic syndrome, you know, having a high blood pressure, having diabetes, and a stressed out immune system that is kind of the root cause of all the different diseases that we're treating now as doctors. We're not really able to cure those diseases. Modern medicine is very good at, you know, the emergency medicine, you know, surgery. If you get an infection, you know, we got antibiotics and so on. But we're not very good at the lifestyle diseases. And there's becoming more and more of it because we are metabolically very unhealthy, particularly in the US, but also in the rest of the Western world. I know that some research shows that only 10% of US citizens are metabolically in balance. That I'm talking about blood sugar, you know, weight, and blood pressure and so on. But there's an easy way to avoid getting those diseases, you know, and it's free, you know, and that is about good diet, good sleep, stress management, you know, cutting alcohol, you know, and exercise and so on. And we would be able to live for 24 years longer. American research, you know, with 700,000 American veterans, show that if we do these things right, we'll live an extra 24 years. So it's not just the 2-3 years that I was considering, you know, and earlier in my doctor life. There's a lot more than that. Now that I have learned it, I see it so clearly also in my patients. And I've seen many patients. In Norway, I've been working all over Norway, from the south to the north. I've seen 100,000 consultations. And because of the way that I've been working, I've seen 50,000 different patients. So I have examined about 1% of Norway's population, you know, with my own hands. And then, of course, then you see what makes people healthy and what makes them unhealthy. You see it very clearly as a doctor. So.
You mentioned lifestyle diseases. How does our lifestyle impact our health?
Our lifestyle makes for bad cells, bad mitochondria. We are learning more and more that these smallest part of our systems, these 37 trillion cells that we consist of, that is temporarily us, you and me, the cells in itself, you know, is the most important thing. So if you have a lifestyle that is good for your cells, and that would be a lifestyle that is quite similar to the ones we have had in our ancestral history, you know, from evolutionary times. With this lifestyle, we have good cells, and that will provide the material for good organs all around in our body, including the brain. And the brain is the organ, of course, most dependent on well-functioning cells, you know, well-functioning mitochondria in our brain. So this good lifestyle kind of makes our whole systems work smoother and avoid getting disease.
So what is the difference between, I guess, a good lifestyle and a bad lifestyle? What does that look like?
Yeah. So with a good lifestyle, when you come to sleep, you are sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night. You're sleeping quite consistent. You go to bed and wake up at the same time. That is maybe one of the most important things about sleep. So you sleep very effectively. When it comes to diet, not to eat from you wake up until you go to bed. To eat, maybe in a restricted eating window from maybe 11 a.m. till 7 p.m. So that you eat for 8 hours and then you are fasting the rest of the time. To give your digestive system enough downtime to recuperate, to recover from the day's digestion. And then you go on to exercise. Make sure that you have some endurance exercise, maybe for a couple of hours every week, as easy jogging or so on, brisk walking. And that you also make sure that you have muscles. And the muscles is not just because of strength and stability that you really need as you get old. There's kind of almost an epidemic of people, with big bellies and thin thighs, and it's not sustainable, as you go into your last decade, that it's not sustainable health-wise. So you need muscles, and you can do easy things like squats, push-ups, sit-ups, the very basic, that you don't need to go to a gym or anything. You can just set aside, 5 minutes every day or every other day. You need to really cut down on alcohol to kind of a minimum. Alcohol is one of the biggest stressors. According to Whoop, the device that I have on my right wrist, alcohol is the worst stressor of all, of everything that they take in from their members. Alcohol is the worst stressor. And you need to find the right stress balance. So you need to be able to calm yourself down, so that because it's in the calm mode that your body can recover, that your body can use your resources to recover from the day's work. And we really need a lot of downtime, easy time, to make sure that happens. There are several good things about these strategies. One, they are free, so they're accessible to anyone, It's when you get sick that the bill starts to add, and it starts getting expensive. So it's free, and the other very good thing is that it will show in your heart rate variability. When you do the good things for your body, your heart rate will be better. You will have a better heart rate variability. And this kind of almost magical metric is at the core of what I've been doing the last 5 years and what the Pulse Cure is about. And then, of course, I must explain a bit what heart rate variability is. It's not, many people would not know that. So it's not the heart rate in itself, which could be, 60 or 70 or 80, when you are resting. It's about the variation between heartbeats. And if you are in the restful state, then when you breathe in, the heart rate will go up a little bit. There's more oxygen in the lungs. The heart rate goes up to make use of that extra oxygen. And when you breathe out and there's less oxygen in the lungs, the heart rate will slow down just a little bit. Measurable in milliseconds, but detectable by the wearables, the smartwatches, the smart rings, and so on. So that is if you're in the restful state, that we're supposed to be most of the time. And then you have the stressed state. Then the heart rate will beat very steadily, at a very steady pace, regardless of you breathing in or out. It's like the organism, that our organisms are, millions of years old, the core of us. And this part of the nervous system we share with all vertebrates, with mammals, so it's an ancient system. So it's like this ancient system interprets that this organism is in danger. We need to use all the available forces because we don't know if this organism is going to survive, around the next corner. So the thing that with the wearables is that they are able to give you an estimate of your balance in this system. How much of the time are you in the stress state, and how much of the time are you in the restful state, and then to see if this is a sustainable balance for you. And of course, for so many people, and almost all of us in the Western world, it's this system that is out of whack, that we are having trouble with, and so this, almost like antibiotics, has been this wonderful cure for the infections that killed the generations before us. This is one of the most important aids, to help us with the modern stress-related diseases.
How does chronic stress affect our inflammation levels? As we live in a society right now that is just chronically stressed out, especially here in the States, after everything that's gone on. And what are some signs that our bodies are actually overstressed?
Yeah, so now we're talking about the chronic stress, the chronic low-grade inflammation that follows the chronic stress. It's not only mental stress, it's also metabolical stress. As I talked about, the blood sugar, the overweight, everything of this is stressing our cells. We are not made for this kind of living, so our cells are not optimal. And when they are not optimal, they are creating an inflammation that goes kind of in our whole body. And the latest research shows that this chronic low-grade inflammation is the root cause of like 80% of the diseases that we are treating. So once we get this more into balance, then the risk of contracting these diseases, goes away. And you can easily, if you Google like any disease or any symptom, of this, and add heart rate variability, you will find lots of research on this. So it's kind of the new medicine. But when you talk to experts and listen to experts, with the latest science, this is what we find now.
Mm-hmm. So what are some practical steps that people can take to reduce their stress or increase their HRV?
Yeah, that would be these things, to make sure that you sleep enough, to make sure that you don't eat, junk food and ultra-processed food, that you stick to whole foods, foods that your great-grandmother would recognize as foods, is often said, that you have this eating window, that you are managed to calm yourself down, to have enough downtime. And the downtime is not just, a waste of time. It's not just a waste of hours, That it's proven that when you relax, this is when you are creative. That's when you get the good ideas. That's when the best performers, they are also best at resting. And that is both in financial world, in the athletic world, in the creative world. We need the time for reflection and for recovery, and that makes us better performers also. So that's an important aspect. It's just not a waste of time that's in our way. It is our way, I would rather say.
Mm. Can you elaborate on that? Because in your book, you call it deliberate rest, and I've heard you talk about it before. And so I think deliberate rest, am I just supposed to sit on the couch and watch television, or what does deliberate rest actually look like?
Yeah, that would not look like just sitting in your couch, would not watching television would not be deliberate rest. That would probably be the opposite, and it may not even be rest. Because when you start using the wearables, you can see that if you're sitting on your couch eating crisps or sweets or chips or eating, then you can see that your body is stressed from the food that you're giving it, that you're not supposed to eat. So even though you may feel restful while you're sitting there watching Netflix, it's not sure that your body is resting. It can still be having trouble after the last meal, for example. So by deliberate rest, I mean your ability to calm yourself down even in stressful situations. That you're able to do the breath, for example, that would be the most effective. To breathe yourself down, to breathe slowly, which is kind of a signal to your whole body that things are calm outside. It's peaceful, we can relax. So then I would recommend that you breathe maybe 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, or 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. That could be even better. As a way to calm yourself down, either just as maybe a minute or two, between meetings, or before a phone call. Maybe while you're in a phone call, while the other person is talking. Often on podcasts, when the podcaster starts to talk, I breathe slowly, to calm myself down, for example. And you could also do it maybe 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Just get it into your system as a way of calming yourself down. Another way of calming down your nervous system is cold. To be cold, to have a cold shower, to have a cold plunge, to cold water immersion. That is very effective, and that is why the athletes use it to get down the inflammation effect from their hard exercise, because that will also give inflammation in your body. And then they use the cold water to get the inflammation down, and we can see it in the heart rate, that the heart rate goes down, and that you are relaxing your system. So that's also part of the good thing about the wearables, that they can motivate you to make these tough choices. They can motivate you to get extra sleep, to tolerate the cold water in the shower, that is never comfortable. To tolerate fasting, because fasting, both as a way, when you eat for 6 or 8 hours a day, the rest of the time you are fasting. If you do 1 or 2 days of fasting, that can also be very good for you, because that can trigger a process called autophagy. Autophagy means eating, self-eating, and that means that when you are not providing food for your body starts recycling the worst cells in your body first. And those are the cells that are prone to develop into cancer and develop into inflammation. So it's kind of fasting, and all the religions have some kind of fasting, and often connected to a process of, sharpening your brain, sharpening your reflection. And then it seems to be quite true that you kind of give your body, a renovation while you are fasting, to get rid of the worst cells. So these are something that you can do that is quite hard, but that you can see the result on your wearable that motivates you to do it.
I hope that you're enjoying this episode brought to you by Aceva. Aceva offers all-natural, clinically inspired nutritional products which are designed to help you live life to your full potential. They create custom supplement packs that are tailored specifically to your needs. With Aceva, you take a short quiz, and from your answers, they build a custom supplement pack just for you. I've been using Aceva for a while now. I have more energy, I'm recovering faster, and I'm even sleeping better. And the best part is that these supplements come pre-packed and are labeled AM, PM, and before bed. This helps ensure that I'm getting exactly what my body needs when it needs it. If you're not taking a daily supplement or are just unhappy with your current one, I highly recommend taking Aceva's short quiz and trying one of their custom supplement packs. And if you use code LifeEdge at checkout, you'll save 50% off your purchase or subscription, but you'll also help support this podcast. You can find the link down below. Now back to our conversation. You've mentioned the wearable several times, and I know you're referring to your book, The Pulse Cure. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that as far as what you're monitoring, what you're looking for, and how the wearable helps you track that?
There are many wearables. The ones that I use, that is the Garmin watches, that is the Aura Ring, and that is the Whoop bracelet. That is also very common. And they track the heart rate, they track the movement system that you have, like if you're moving, running, it can track your kind of the effectiveness of your body, because it can measure your VO2 max. And your VO2 max is a measure of your fitness level. So that is also something that at least many of these wearables can do. But they will measure your heart rate, night and day. So while you are busy living your life, communicating with others, pursuing interests, these wearables keep track of your heart rate. And then, as I said, your heart rate can tell you so much about your stress levels, and they can then give you information on if your balance is sustainable, if it's compatible with good health or not. So they will often give you the results, with the artificial intelligence that they are connected to. They will tell you whether this day was in balance or not. They will tell you whether you should take it easy for a day or two now. You have been stressing too much, and so on. And the opposite, they can tell you now you have been having a relaxing day. Maybe you should go out and have a workout or something. So you don't have to figure all this out by yourself. There's also good systems to help you and guide you along the way. Yeah.
Mm. And going back to stress, I've heard you mention before on a different podcast that how we think about stress actually impacts how the body processes it.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit more about how our mindset can affect our stress management?
Yeah. The real expert on this is Kelly McGonigal. She is a psychologist. She has written excellent books on stress, the upside of stress. And then research shows that if you think that stress is good for you, then it makes you more healthy and you live longer. If you think that stress is bad for you, you will be sicker and have a shorter life. And the interesting connection to this is that this way of thinking will affect how your blood vessels react to the stress that you are feeling. If you're in the challenge mode, that you think that I can do this, then the blood vessels in the periphery will dilate and will give you more blood to your muscles and to your brain. If you think that this is bad for you, then the peripheral arteries and so on will constrict, and there will be less oxygen and blood coming to your vital organs and your muscles and brain. And that is because that from the ancient times, the fact that you thought you could do it is connected to hunting, to getting what you want. And the fearful state was only when you were hunted down. And then it was important to constrict the blood vessels to avoid blood loss, because you may be bitten, the next moment, and be eaten and getting some injury, so that it would make it harder, to bleed to death, and so on. So, but of course, in our world, when we are stressed because of a deadline that our boss has put on us, that we have a colleague that we dislike, and so on, this ancient system is still in working. So this is why to have a positive attitude towards stress is important. And we are made to stress. We are the descendants of ancestors who were good at stressing, who were good at hunting, who were good at fighting, good at getting what they want, and they were able to pass their genes onward. So we're supposed to stress. So we should think and regard stress as positive. But we still have to make sure that you have enough downtime to balance the stress, so that we are, that you are not stressed all the time, because our systems, our immune system, is made for the stressing part of the day. But it's made that most of the day, and most of the week, and most of the time is in a relaxed state. So, because they are putting these variables on hunter-gatherers, that still exist in the world, and then they see that they will be in the stress state and moving 2-3 hours a day, and the rest of the time they are relaxing. If you probably I've been traveling a lot in third world countries, and you see people are very good at relaxing. So they are working, but they're also very good at relaxing and not doing anything. Like the Italians. Also the il dolce di fare niente. The sweet of not doing anything. What it kind of sums up, it's important to stress, and it's important to relax, and it's very good to have devices like this giving us information if we are succeeding in this. And it's particularly important, in the work life. We know that I recently heard that 88% of UK employees, for example, have been on the verge of burnout the last 2 years. And I know the numbers for burnout in the US, they're staggering. So and this would be shown in the wearables. They would tell you that you're putting too much pressure on yourself. You are stressing too much. This will make you sick.
In the case of, say, the employee whose boss put a deadline on them, that sounds like a stressful situation, and for a lot of people it is, which is causing this chronic stress and the burnout that you're talking about. It sounds binary as far as the options that the employee has. They can either just quit and say no because I don't want to stress out, or they have to go through the situation. How do they then balance the having to get the job done but not being too stressed out over having to get the job done?
Yeah, good question. So here you will have something that you have control over, and factors that you don't have control over. Of course, you can choose to quit your job or anything, but say that you are not in that position. You have to do this job. Then you can't control that. Then you must find out, okay, what can you control? Okay, you can control your alcohol consumption. You can control your sleep consistency. Control that you don't drink coffee, for example, after 12 o'clock, so that you sleep better. You can control your breathing, so that you're relaxing your system, with breathing as much as you can. You can do cold showers in the morning. You can implement some fasting routines. You can, if you're using nicotine in any way, smoking or vaping or other forms, you can cut down on that. So you can cut down on your use of junk food or ultra-processed food. So these things are factors that you can control, So and then to see, okay, where will that take you when you start getting more control of these other factors. And of course, if that either doesn't work, then quit your job. You don't. It's not worth it. You getting sick.
And you mentioned in that not drinking coffee after 12 p.m. And you had talked about how alcohol is like the worst stressor that you could put on your body. How does is coffee a stressor because it's a stimulant, and then how does it affect your HRV?
Coffee, according to Whoop, is a good thing for your stress balance. As long as we're talking 3, 4, maybe 5 cups of coffee from the morning until noon. If you drink coffee after that, it will impact your sleep. Even if you think that it doesn't. When we go into sleep studies, you can see that the important restorative sleep phases will be shorter and not as effective if you have caffeine in your system. And the half time of caffeine is like 6 hours. So half of the caffeine you had, for example, at 6 o'clock in the evening, will still be there at midnight. So and that is why it will impact your sleep. So but when you do it just in the morning, then it has a good effect on you. Coffee has polyphenols that are molecules that are good for you, good for your immune system. So that's a good thing. So there's no reason to say that people should not drink coffee. And it's only, as I said, if you drink it out into the evening. And the problem may also be that what kind of life do you live if you have to have coffee to stay awake into the evening? Okay, then maybe it's the lifestyle that makes you need the coffee that's a problem, and maybe not the coffee in itself.
As we're talking about coffee, and you're talking about why do you need coffee going into the evening, this is in society today right now, we're just chronically tired and constantly tired, and it's almost a badge of honor that, well, I'm tired because I'm working so hard, or I'm tired because I have 3 kids and this and that and everything's going on. Can you explain what are the effects of being constantly tired and why that is not healthy?
Yeah, that will be that you will be then in a state of chronic inflammation, that is like fuel, if you can put it that way, is like fuel for a variety of diseases that you will contract, and with the years, it's kind of like you're adding one after another until you have maybe 4 or 5 different diseases. And then I'm talking about high blood pressure, diabetes. Often you will have an acid, dyspepsia, with an acid from your stomach problem. You may get depression, because your brain cells will also be affected by it. So you may get an autoimmune disease, like a thyroid disease and so on. So a typical patient after 20-30 years of a state of chronic inflammation will have contracted these diseases. And of course the sad thing as a doctor is to know that you didn't need to have them. With a better lifestyle you could have avoided contracting these diseases if you made sure that your lifestyle was good, your cells were working properly to the benefit of all your organs.
I've heard you mention before, and this is a term I've never heard of, but you talked about brown fat, and I'd be curious to know, what is brown fat?
Yeah, so brown fat, that is a kind of fat that has mitochondria in it. That is why it's brown as opposed to yellow, like it's the normal fat. And the brown fat is involved in temperature regulation. And that is why we used to think as doctors that brown fat was something that, very small children had, like up to 1 year and so. Because when temperatures change, they don't have the same ability to use their muscles to generate heat. So they would have the brown fat to do it for them. Now we know more that when you challenge your body with temperature, both hot and cold, like of course we were supposed to, even on the savannah in Africa 50,000 years ago, it was warm at day and cold at night. We often lived in some altitude, so it was quite cold at night, and we didn't have down jackets and necessarily at that time, or duvets and blankets and all this. So then when we expose ourselves to these challenging temperatures, then the brown fat will increase. So we still have this system, but our comfort, our tendency to be comfortable all the time in kind of a room temperature, all the time, has kind of just like muscles that are not used, just use it or lose it. It has been the same with the brown fat. So we can use cold therapy to trigger the brown fat that will be good for our metabolism, into a more active metabolism, losing weight, getting a better control of ourselves, getting the inflammation down. That is the key that we are talking about all the time. Yeah.
And as you continually advocate for preventative health, yes, I know you're a doctor and you do a lot of the I don't want to call it blanketed as symptomatic medicine, but um, how do you see the future playing out as far as being able to scale the preventative healthcare?
Yeah. And here I would recommend the book from Peter Attia. He has written a great book. I don't recall the title exactly now, but he's talking about Medicine 2.0 and Medicine 3.0. Where Medicine 2.0 is the medicine, up till now, with waiting till people get sick and then start treating, with pills and procedures. Well, Medicine 3.0 is preventative medicine, individualized medicine, proactive rather than reactive medicine. And that is kind of the new medicine. So in the future, it seems that there will be possible for people who are proactive to get healthier than ever. While on the other hand, the people who don't know this or are not willing to take the responsibility of their own health, seems to be even worse off, than ever. I think we'll see a generation of children growing up now that are in worse health than ever. Particularly in Norway, I see, overweight children. You can see from their movement pattern that they're not used to be in nature. It looks like if they would go into the woods like here in Norway, they would just fall over. They don't have the balance, to walk. They're either sitting or walking on a flat surface. They're not being out in nature. Nature is another thing that is so super healthy for us in so many ways. Being good for like depression, for everything. So I think there will be a big difference here, and I think also that technology can help us living better, just like these wearables I'm talking about, like continuous glucose monitors that can show you how your diet affects your blood sugar. So it also shifts the power of your health from the doctor, from the healthcare system, and into your own hands, literally. And with the aid of artificial intelligence, and technology, you get the results and the good advice right on your phone that you're using all the time anyway. So often, of course, we're using the phones in a way that is not good for us, with social media, comparing yourself to everybody else, getting stressed and so on from the news and from everything. But technology can also help us, in this way to gain control instead of lose it.
Like you just mentioned about the children in Norway, and a lot of them seem like they couldn't make it 12 minutes outside in nature. Is there hope for this generation coming up in regards to health, or have we completely lost them and the battle is already lost?
Yeah, for lots of them, probably the battle is lost. I'm sure most of the children I see, if we ask them to run for 10 minutes, they'd be exhausted. They would hardly be capable. While my generation, that's what we were doing all the time. Running around, biking, being active. So I'm worried about these children. I see them every day as a doctor. And it seems to be hard for parents. And it seems to be. It's also hard for doctors to talk to parents about this. They would often, they would be annoyed by you. Suggesting that they should take care of their children in another way. So most doctors, I don't think, would not talk about it at all. So we are not helping either. So I think the solution must be that their parents, become more health conscious and educate themselves and try to organize their family life to include more nature, to include more activity, better food and so on. the same things I've been talking about.
In your perspective, does it feel like more doctors are shifting to preventative care and trying to figure out how to prevent it? Or is it still just we're going to treat the symptoms after you're sick?
I think it's a big shift in the younger generation of doctors. The doctors that have been active in working, maybe in 10 years. For my generation of doctors, I'm 55, they're not paying attention at all. They're not listening to podcasts. They're not reading the latest book on the science. They're not. They don't know. And unfortunately, in many cases, they are the decision makers. They are the leaders and the CEOs of their hospitals and so on. So it will take some time, but if you listen anywhere, if you listen to the diary of a CEO, he has a lot of the time he has health people, because they know that for the business to be wealthy, you have to have health as a baseline for everything that you do. And many other good podcasts like The Drive from Peter Attia, and what I am talking about now is all they're talking about. But if you're not listening to those podcasts, you don't know these things.
What do you hope the future holds for healthcare in the terms of integrating lifestyle changes and preventative measures?
Yeah, I think there will be a revolution. I think it seems like there's an exponential scale on this. It seems that there's more and more all the time available. And the good thing is that there is money to be made on preventing you from getting sick. Up until now, almost all the money in healthcare is about sick people. Waiting till you get sick and then treat you. Now there's a huge shift in the economy, the economical, commercial part of it, that has shifted towards keeping you healthy. And that is very promising, I think. Both regarding, blood tests, technology that we have been talking about. So there's, I think that's a very good thing, and that it's empowering yourself, and you get the control of it. So I'm quite hopeful, so that the people who want to take responsibility of their health can do that now in a way that they couldn't just 10 years ago. There was not the possibility to do it.
As we start to wrap up here, what is one lesson that you want to leave with the listener that you've learned throughout life?
One thing that I learned throughout life, that would be that I started this podcast, telling about my death of my father, and that in things, in even the worst things you can experience, there is something that can come out of it. Because if he hadn't died, I sure would have gone on for my 4 years journey. Probably would not have changed my lifestyle at all. None of the things that I've done, the writing of the Pulse Cure, the success of the book, everybody who has benefited from this advice that I have given in the book would not have been there. So there's always, it can grow something out of, the things that you don't really want in your life too. So that, that would be it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Where can the listeners go to connect with you or pick up your book, The Pulse Cure?
Yeah, the Pulse Cure is a normal book in American and English publishers, so you can buy it on any outlet that sells books. It's also an audiobook, so you can go on your iPhone, directly and just download it from the book app on your iPhone. We also have a social website where I have a blog, have video lectures. It's thepulsecure.com. It's possible to go there, and I'm on Instagram on Dr. Torkil. That is dr.torkil. That is possible to follow, and I try to give advice on Instagram and videos and so on. So,
for everyone listening, I will make sure to include all the links down below in the show notes so that you can get the book, The Pulse Cure, or connect with Dr. Torkil. And if you like this podcast, please be sure to like and subscribe and share it with your friends so that we can help spread the word on preventative health, but also continue to get great guests on here like Dr. Torkil. So Dr. Torkil, thank you for your time today. I can't express my appreciation enough for coming on the podcast today and having this conversation.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's so nice of you to let me talk to your audience and inform them about these super important things that I'm so passionate about. So thank you very much.